Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. We're visiting the year 1985 tonight, our favorite albums from 1985. Before we get started, let me introduce the crew. We got Mr. Rock Fantasy himself, Steve Keeler. Count Ralphus is on board, Ralph Tambora. Ryan Scow. Our center square, he's ready for hockey, Butch Jones. Rob Lasanti. Bryce Barraza from Bryce Talks Metal, and Karen La Preziosa. Greetings, everybody. You ready to talk your favorite albums of 85?
Yeah.
Sure.
Everybody's got their top three. We're going to go once around. Everybody's going to give their top three, and then we'll go a second time around. Everybody will give three honorable mentions. Ralph's going to show off some album covers real quick because I forgot to send him the message on what we were doing, but that's okay. So anyway, Karen, kick us off with your three favorite albums of 1985.
Okay. Ryan, hit it.
Oh, yeah, I got props for Karen here.
Yeah.
There we go.
Land of Mystery from Black Hole is my number 3 pick. It's like a horror movie on vinyl. It's awesome. It's very atmospheric. It's when I saw it in the record store, I laughed at the cover. I thought it was like, oh, I could have drew this in freaking 6th grade, I dismissed it. Yeah, look at that. It's
like a cheese grater on its side,
I've never even heard of them.
Yeah. So I wouldn't have appreciated it anyway. I was looking for something faster and louder and angrier, and this is epic Italian doom, kind of proggy, kind of psychedelic, kind of atmospheric. It's got everything. A lot of like the vocals they sound like someone's singing from the basement and it's coming up in the vent. You know what I'm saying? It's very it's so I can't explain it. The guy's got a heavy Italian accent and I love it.
Yeah, he does.
And it makes me wonder if they had the money, like what kind of album could they have really made? Because it is pretty grandiose in some sections. The lyrics are all about the occult. It's got those doom riffs, but like I said, it gets a little proggy and psychedelic. My standout tracks are Land of Mystery, Blind Men, and Occult.
Occult Forces.
Yes, Occult Forces.
Yeah, the accent's
Obscurity and the Ethereal House and Angels of Lucifer. So
I heard of this band. I'm very intrigued.
You know what it sounds like, Pete? Because I picked it. I have it because I have it as an honorable mention. It sounds like Black Sabbath were from Milan, Italy, instead of Birmingham, and they were contracted to write the soundtrack for Suspiria. That's exactly what it sounds like.
Okay.
It's a Giallo movie on vinyl.
Yeah, I got like 2 vinyl. I got tape. I got all kinds of shit. T-shirts. Well, I think you just bought a T-shirt too.
I did.
And we're gonna wear a T-shirt together. Like everybody's like,
Yeah.
who the fuck is this band with this terrible album cover?
Right. So yeah, like in the 80s, I would have definitely not appreciated it. And as I came full circle, really investigating into more doom and stuff, I found it and I love it.
Cool.
And we're speaking around doom. That leads me to my number 2 is Surprise, Surprise to Megatherion. Okay, from Celtic Frost. Thank you, Ryan. Such an important band in my life. The opening track is ominous and heavy and epic and right to the so serious and into Usurper. Such a great record, and it's double bass, yet it's thick and dense like Black Sabbath, but it's still moves a little bit, and it was of all the thrash bands that were coming out, this was definitely something different, and it resonated with me because first of all, the sound, I love that doomy kind of sound, and a doomy thrash band was perfect for me. So yeah, I love it. And Dawn of Megiddo was deliberate and slow, and it's a fabled biblical land where many battles or Armageddon was supposed to have taken place, and it sounds like it definitely sounds like the soundtrack to a battle in ancient times. I could go on about this record forever, but we got a lot of people to get to.
Yeah.
So speaking with the hell and fire and Satan theme, Hell Awaits is my first one. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you very much. The artwork on all of these records are incredible. I mean, Black Hole is so basic and fun, and H.R. Giger for Celtic Frost, Circle of Tyrants, and I mean, to Megatherion. And then this is amazing. I love that album cover, always have. The best opening track in heavy metal history is Hell Awaits. It freaking gave me the chills. It made me really want to get into more aggressive, more extreme metal, anything, you know. And Slayer, another band that was a thrash band, but yet had a signature sound. And if, I mean, I don't know the terminology, but the chord progressions, it sounded different than anybody else at the time, and everybody was doing thrash. And if there was ever a debate on who is better, Metallica or Slayer, this put that right to bed, because there is no contest. It's a classic record. I'm sure someone else is going to talk about it, so I'm going to leave it to you, Pete, and move along. How's that?
Well, to go straight across here, I guess I'll go next quick. My number 3, Power of the Night by fucking Savatage.
All right.
It's not my favorite Savatage album, but it's pretty high up there.
Mine.
Crushing album, really cool production.
Yep.
Band's pretty much peaking at that point.
Hey, who produced that album, Pete?
A guy that you like a lot. And if you're wondering who, you know, his initials are MN.
There you go.
Max Norman. My number 2, this is a great album, really great album. Walls of Jericho by Helloween.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
One of the great speed metal / power metal albums of all time. Just an absolute masterpiece. That's my number 2. And my number 1 has always been my number 1 from 85. This is easily my favorite album from this guy. I listened to it a ton when it first came out. I still listen to it a lot. Marching Out by Yngwie Malmsteen, Jeff Scott Soto, his crowning achievement as far as I'm concerned. It's heavy. There's lots of shredding on it. There's great vocals on it. And it's just, again, it's kind of like his power metal album, but it's gothic, and it's just, yeah, just gorgeous stuff on there. That's my top 3. Bryce, how to you?
Cool. First off, I got to shout out this band, Sadistic Force. Really cool, from Austin, Texas. Classic sounding black thrash, brand new. Check them out if you like Motorhead and Venom. But my number 3 is going to be Mystery of Illusion by Chastain. Really great classic band, super underrated. Leather Leone on vocals is basically the female version of Ronnie James Dio, in my opinion. David T. Chastain, one of the all-time great underrated shredders to come out of the 80s. Just amazing guitar work on this album. And actually, Fred Corey does the drumming on this, who went on to be in Cinderella. But really cool stuff. A couple of standout tracks. The Black Knight to open it up is fantastic. When the Battle's Over and We Shall Overcome, really epic track. But if you like classic US power metal, speed metal, classic metal, check that one out. My number 2, I'm going to go with The Last Command, Wasp, my boys here.
The GOAT.
Blackie. He's a goat. One of the most,
right? He sure is.
one of the most unique voices of all time. Nobody sounds like him.
Thank
Love
God.
the way. No, thank God. Yeah, he's a freaking beast. You know, dude.
I'm with you, Bryce. I love him. Don't
He's
listen.
got an amazing voice. The
Does
way
he
he
fuck like
constructs
a
his
beast too?
vocals. Do what?
Does he fuck like the beast too?
That's what I hear.
Oh,
But
God.
yeah, so Wild Child to open this up is one of my favorite songs ever. Literally, I ranked it in my top 10 songs of all time. Fistful of Diamonds, another great one. Blind in Texas is super cool. This was their first album with Steve Riley, who later went on to be in LA Guns. But very cool stuff. Chris Holmes and Piper, great guitar tone. I love this one from top to bottom. It's somewhat, from the first album, it's a slight drop off, but it's still amazing. And my number 2, got to go with Under Lock and Key, Dokken. Great classic band. They've been mentioned a ton on this show, but Unchained the Night's great. The Hunter, Lightning Strikes Again, one of their faster, more upbeat songs, very heavy. And Till the Living End, a really great, underrated one to close it out. But Don, great voice. George Lynch, of course, fantastic guitar player, and the rest of the band's fantastic as well. So that is my number 1, Under Lock and Key.
By the way, all you bands watching, Bryce is taking bookings for the next show. If you want to send him your T-shirt, he'll show up
Yeah,
in
right.
Yeah.
2 weeks. I forgot to list Lynn's picks. So Lynn also picked Dock and Under Lock and Key, Overkill, Field of Fire, and Wasp: The Last Command.
Yeah.
Overkill,
Food for
yeah,
Wasp.
that's a
Nice
good
job,
one.
Lynn.
There you go. All right, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Who?
Rob.
Oh, me. All right. So my number 3 is gonna be, this is gonna be a surprise for some of you probably, but Rat, Invasion of Privacy. I love that album. I love the riffs on that album. Crosby and DeMartini are awesome on that album.
Great
Still
album
one of my
cover too.
favorite
eh?
albums from the mid 80s. You know, it's funny because this task tonight was hard. There's a lot of bands that back in the 80s when I was listening to all this music, some of the bands I didn't get into later, like that Sabotage one, which is actually an honorable mention for me. But you know, Rat was big. MTV, you know, it sold it all. You know, watching MTV every day and just watching those guys. Number 2 is going to be, this is hard because, you know, and especially with the documentary going on, Dio Sacred Heart. I mean, I love Dio. I've always loved Dio. Dio is the voice, King of Rock and Roll, Sacred Heart, Rock and Roll Children. I mean, it's a great album, you know, and all the guys on it, Vivian and Jimmy. You know, it's funny. I started to re-listen to a lot of this music, you know, that we've been from 85, and it's just amazing, you know, how much great music came out in 85, but just, you can't, you know, you just can't pick everything. But for me, Dio has always been one of my top. And then number 1, same as Pete, got to be Yngwie, man. That album, to this day, I play it at least a couple times a year. And I listened to it like 5 times this week because I love this album, you know. I mean, Don't Let It In, I'll See the Light, Disciples of Hell, I'm a Viking, Anguish of Fear, On the Run Again. I mean, every fucking song is Soldier Without Faith is like the best riffs on that. Caught in the Middle. I mean, the whole album is a classic. It's a complete classic, you know. And then you got Johansson brothers on there, and it's an amazing album. I'll never get tired of it. Sometimes I get tired of Yngwie, but you know, that's another story for another discussion.
I hear you. Yeah.
So those are my 3 picks for tonight.
All right, cool. Butch.
Hi. Oh, by the way, I'm drinking wine tonight. I ran out of bourbon.
Holy shit.
What?
I'll have more bourbon tomorrow, people. Don't worry. I'm sorry. So it's red wine for tonight.
Someone's got to make a trip to Viscounts, I think.
I'm going straight to the distillery tomorrow, so I'll be all stocked up.
I drove right by there the other day.
Taconic?
Yes.
Yeah, nice place for sure. So I knew I had a feeling that Pete was going to say Sabotage. That is absolutely my favorite Sabotage record. So I'm taking that out of the loop, and I knew Dokken was going to get mentioned, so that really wasn't even going to be in the loop because I knew that was going to get mentioned. But of course, anything with Lynch, I'm going to love it. But so my number 3, Anthrax: Spreading the Disease. Anthrax is especially back in that time in 85 is the year I graduated high school. Anthrax was a huge band for me, especially being from New York and seeing them at Lemoore, and I love Fistful of Metal. It's one of my favorite all-time metal albums ever. So being able to see them get their major label debut with that record it was just awesome to be around at that time. So that always going to mean a lot to me for that record in 85. It was phenomenal. Here's one that you might figure.
Yeah, I knew that.
Icons, Night of the Crime, their second record. It is not as great as their first one. Their first one is legendary. I mean, this is legendary too. This is a great record, but it is slightly different from the first. The first is just untouchable. But that one is great. It's a concept record. I'm not a big concept record person because they tend to go off on tangents and never really feels cohesive, even though the bands think it sounds cohesive. But it's a great record. But for 85, there was no doubt I play this album to this day all the time. If I always have my music on shuffle, if a song comes on from this record, that means that the next day I'm gonna, or if it's in the morning, that means I'm gonna listen to the album later on that day because it means the world to me. I saw them on this tour, and the band I've stuck up for a long time, King Cobra, Ready to Strike. This record, I don't, yes, I understand that in the 80s it didn't look bad. In the 80s it was cool. I still think they look cool. Everybody with blonde platinum hair with pink in their hair, and Carmine Appice with dark hair with pink. I don't give a shit. This record's fucking rules. You can make fun of them, because if you didn't listen to the music, if you just looked at the picture and you just cast it aside, which I think a lot of people did.
I did.
And for
I'm
Bryce,
guilty.
where is he? There's Johnny Rod, who ended up in Wasp.
Nice.
But this record is so fucking awesome. It was recorded at Pasha Studios back in the 80s, which has that real, I would call it the Pasha drum sound. Any album that was ever recorded at Pasha Studios, you instantly know that it was done there as soon as you hear the drums. And it was owned by Captain from Captain and Tennille. It was his studio, Daryl Dragon. But that record, Ready to Strike, man, it's just a vicious record. Mark Free, who is now Marcy Free, had an angelic voice. His voice is tremendous on that record. Every song is awesome. I've talked about the band Kick-Axe and here, and definitely I talk about it a lot lately in the Butcher Shop. But the last song on the record, which is Piece of the Rock, was written by Kick-Axe. And Kick-Axe actually ended up doing it on the record that came out after the King Cobra record. I think it was on their second record, on Kick-Axe's second record. But yeah, I will defend that record till the day I die. That King Cobra record is awesome. Just if you give it a shot, there is nothing wrong with it. Great guitar playing, great singing. Carmine Appice is killing on drums, and Mark Free just sounds phenomenal. So that was easy my number one.
Wow.
Cool. Which I'm surprised, and maybe we'll hear in the honorable mentions. I was expecting to hear something from the East, perhaps.
You don't
have to answer.
I'm going to tell you right now. I forgot.
Oh, really?
Happens.
Yep. Until you just said it.
Why?
Oof.
No Akira for you tonight. Man.
Can we go back and record it? Can we edit mine so I can slide it in there? Oof. Yep. Okay. Next.
All right, Ryan.
Oof.
All right. So Karen already mentioned this one, but
Do it justice, because I ran right through it.
oh, I'm gonna do it again because I love this album. I mean, there's a million great albums from this year, but as soon as you said 85, my top three were locked in, non-negotiable, and everything else is subject to change. But these three were definitely my top three. So number 3 is To Make a Therion by Celtic Frost, and I consider this a Goldilocks album. So what the fuck's a Goldilocks album? I'll tell you. So when these guys started, they started in the early 80s as Hellhammer. And Hellhammer made Motorhead sound like Mozart. It was so raw and primitive and just ridiculous, but they're great. A lot of charm, more will than skill, I guess is a good phrase
A lot
for
of
it.
charm.
I know. I never.
It was its own thing.
Hellhammer.
It's its own thing, you know. But Hellhammer was around a very short period of time. They put out a couple demos, the EP in '84, then they broke up and they got right back together. Started Celtic Frost, put out 2 EPs in '84. Morbid Tales and Emperor's Return, and you could tell they were practicing a lot. They were definitely putting the time in, definitely trying to get better as songwriters and musicians, and there's a noticeable improvement from the Hellhammer. And then 1 year later in '85 they put out their actual debut album. So now they've gone from rough artwork, now they got H.R. Geiger, who designed Alien, from to put the artwork on it, which is this iconic great album art.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and like Karen said, this album's like a perfect, I say Goldilocks, because after this, then we got a little more experimental, still good on the next album. But this album's like the perfect album. Everything just came together. Tom Warrior got a lot better at lyric writing. You know, the first song, you got Innocence and Wrath, which is kind of this bombastic intro. They got timpani drums, like a symphony orchestra kind of building up, which not a lot of bands, especially like in more like the underground, nobody was doing that in like the mid 80s. That was kind of new. And then they kick it into Usurper. Lyrics right out of Robert E. Howard from Conan the Barbarian. You know, it's like, lend me your steel-bearing hand so I can claim a jeweled throne. You know, right out of Conan. Fucking awesome.
Yeah, right.
And the lyrics on this whole album are much better. They were getting much better as musicians. The songwriting is great. Circle of the Tyrants is one of those awesome thrash. Like as soon as they play it, because Tom's in a Triptychon now, it's his current band, but they usually cover that song. Huge pit immediately. As soon as they break into that iconic opening riff from Circle of the Tyrants, you're like, that's it. You know, make sure your shoes are laced up for that one. So yeah, awesome album.
Absolutely.
So not only do we get the reappearance of the catchphrase "more will than skill" after probably more than a year,
Yeah, it's back.
we now have a Goldilocks album.
The
It's a Goldilocks album. Yeah, it's just right. There's parts. Number 2. Oh, you know what? I'm going to say, since band photos are making the rounds, I think these guys look awesome as shit. For
hell
Tom's
yeah.
got that crazy hair, but yeah, there we go. That's a fucking cool looking metal band to me. So we're gonna move over from Switzerland, Zurich, Switzerland. We're gonna go from Switzerland to Los Angeles, City of Angels, and go with the debut album from Possessed, Seven Churches. Arguably the first death metal album. I don't know. It's been called the first death metal album. To me, it's a thrash album that's really dark and heavy. It does get compared to Slayer a little bit, but I think it sounds way different. Jeff Becerra doesn't sound anything like Tom Arai. The guitarists, Larry Lalonde, who go on to be in Primus, which I don't like, and Mike Torreo. They didn't sound like Jeff and Kerry, so they had their own thing going on. But I don't know. I can't even name songs in this one because I put this album. This is I put it on. I got to listen to the whole thing.
But they
pictures.
were really young. They were like 16, 17.
Oh yeah, they were
that
super
record out.
young when
Yeah,
they
I
did
just
this,
want
which
to
is
make a point of
crazy.
saying that because they were kids,
And
literally.
so it opens with The Exorcist. So it's got the tubular bells, which is taken from the movie The Exorcist, that iconic intro to The Exorcist. And so already it's got that horror movie, that satanic feel, and then this riff just comes flying out of the fucking speakers like crazy. I think Slayer might have been one of the only bands around that time, also from Los Angeles, as fast and heavy as these guys. But I don't know. This album, I play this all the time. Their second album, Beyond the Gates, also good, a little more thrash, a little less chaotic. And they came out with an album recently, which I think is pretty good. But to me, this is the iconic one. And the artwork's pretty cool. It's very simple, but it's just memorable. I love the logo because the logo really stands out. And again, these are just some. There we go. There's Jeff Becerra, the bassist and vocalist, with that fucking giant upside down cross in the cemetery and the smoke machine and everything. So, and like Karen said, these guys were young as shit when they recorded this. So just
like
awesome. Of course, number 1. I don't know. On some days, I'd say this is my favorite album of all time. A lot of days, actually. I listen to it all the time. I love it. I could talk about it for hours, but I won't. I'll just talk about it for a few seconds. That's obviously Hell Awaits. So the artwork, some of these artwork on this album was actually copped from a old French comic book called Heavy Metal. Started off as Metal Hurlant and then was translated to heavy metal. Not actually the music heavy metal, just a comic, like a sci-fi horror comic. There was an old issue from the 70s where I forget the artist that did the artwork for this, which sucks because I'm saying it's my favorite album. I don't remember the artist, but yeah, it was stolen from that. But to me, this is I don't know. This is as perfect as metal gets.
Oh, absolutely.
It's I know that they were largely influenced by Merciful Fate around this time. So this is the only album that they ever did where they wrote these longer, more expansive songs, and they fucking killed it. It's the only time you ever saw Slayer kind of like dig in, like do these 5, 6, 7 minute songs. And they were so good at it. And they never did it again because next they went to Rain and Blood, 2-3 minutes. So maybe that makes it a little more special because they're like, let's do that all the time. They just did it and then they changed and they never went back. And obviously the earlier stuff didn't do that either. So, I mean, the tone, I love the guitar tone on this. It sounds like it literally sounds like it was recorded in hell, which is crazy because it's kind of raw, but there's a lot of albums that are raw and none of them have that cavernous reverb tone. Lombardo is just, I don't know if what the fuck they fed that guy before this album. He's out of control. I think it's the best stuff Jeff Hanneman ever wrote.
Oh, big time.
Tom sounds amazing. Obviously, no one really listens to Slayer for bass playing, so nobody really cares about that. But his vocals on this album sound so good. So to me, this is just, I don't know, perfect album. Usually my favorite album of all time. Definitely my favorite Slayer album. Not the album that got me into Slayer, not the album I listened to the most back then from Slayer, but over time, it's just become my favorite Slayer album. And I play it all the time. And every time, like you said, the intro, Hell Awaits, that intro, greatest opening song in metal. You hear that tom roll come in and that slow build up. That makes you just want to flip fucking tables, run through walls, everything Nick usually says, just fucking flip trash cans over, knock mailboxes over, the whole bit. So Hell Awaits.
All right.
Awesome.
Ralph.
All right. Well,
so 1985, such an important year for music. I was still listening to a lot of the traditional heavy metal, but the albums that came out in 85 are the albums that had me transition from traditional metal to the more extreme underground music for years to come. And like Scal just said, the first two albums of mine were locked in right away when I heard 1985, but the third album, that's where I could have a tie for like 20 albums.
Yeah, right on.
So I ended up going with an album. I was in a record store with my friend Jay, and I was wearing like a Nuclear Assault shirt, and he was wearing an Anthrax shirt. We were at Record World in the old mall. We were flipping through the import section and stuff, and some older metalhead was in there, and he goes, "Oh, you like those two bands? You'll like this band." And this was the album that he was talking about.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And we didn't have enough money at the time to buy it, so we chipped in, and we were like going to take turns owning it. Like, so we paid $5 each, and we bring it home. The first time we listened to it, we were just laughing our asses off. What the fuck did we just buy? I want some milk, and what's that noise? And we didn't understand what we were listening to. Then we had a few friends come over, and we were like, "Yo, you got to hear this album." The second time, we started hearing the riffs and stuff, and we were like, "Man, this is fucking really cool," So I took it home the first week, and then the next week he wanted it for his turn. I said, "Here's your $5. I'm keeping this thing."
I was gonna say that must not have worked out for too long, right? The shared album. No.
Yeah, once it came home, I wasn't letting it go. And then with all the great albums that came out this year, me, Scow, and Karen got the same two other ones. So
Yeah.
I got to go with Megatherion. Here's my signed copy, Martin A. and Tom Warrior. Rest in
Oh,
peace,
Nice.
Martin
nice. Yeah.
A. And I'm not going to spend much time on it because Scow just did a great job talking about how this is one of the most important albums ever. It is my favorite Slayer album. It's always that and Rain and Blood, like neck and neck, but I have to go with Hell Awaits. I even have like I doubt you'll be able to see this here, but I got a little Hell Awaits tattoo,
Oh,
underneath
cool.
Nice.
my Black Sabbath tattoo. But so yeah, now I got a bunch of honorable mentions when we come back around, but that's it.
And by the way, Ralph's first album, for those of you that didn't recognize that album cover, is Stormtroopers of Death, Speak English or Die. So
Great album.
yes,
Rudy.
yes, indeed. What's the total? What's the total length of that album again?
Short.
Yeah, it didn't crack 30 minutes, did it?
No, I think it's like 28 minutes.
Yeah, it's definitely not 30.
Yeah,
Yeah, they got 3-second songs on here.
Yeah.
24-second song, 4-second song, the Ballad of Jimi Hendrix, 4 seconds.
Yeah,
but-
real quick.
Tell you what, I seen them on that tour. It was tremendous, though. It was really something
crazy stuff.
to see.
They caught lightning in a bottle there, All right, Steve.
What's up, guys? 1985, the year Rock Fantasy opened.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
The brick and
right.
mortar after years of flea markets and fairs. So 85 was when the Rock Fantasy started, kind of. So my 3 picks, everyone's mentioned tonight, but I'm going to say it again. Those are my 3 picks too. Starting out with number 3 is going to be Exodus, Bonded by Blood.
All right.
Oh, no one's mentioned that yet. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, a little shocking no one's mentioned it, but anyhow, Bonded by Blood, Lust and Violence, Strike of the Beast, the title track, 3 songs that I picked to nominate my 3 off of it. Of course, Piranha. I figured everybody else would talk about that. My number 2 is Halloween, Walls of Jericho. I think it's one of the best albums ever. I love that record. How Many Tears, Heavy Metal is a Law, Metal Invaders, and of course, anybody that's into pinball like Karen.
Gorgar.
Yeah,
Gorgar.
Fucking Gorgar.
They actually wrote a song about the Williams pinball machine, and
The best machine ever.
It really is.
pretty
It
good
really
one.
is.
And anyhow, so that's what they're singing about, the first talking pinball machine in Gorgar. And my number 1 is Slayer Hell Waits. I guess it's been pretty much talked about, but At Dawn They Sleep, Kill Again, the title track, the 3 ones I picked off of that. And yeah, there's plenty of great albums that came out in 85 for sure. So those are my 3 though, and I'm keeping it short and sweet. And where the hell is Chris Allo?
He's had to take care of something tonight, so he wasn't sure.
Does he? Okay, well, he's missed. I'm looking like Chris isn't in the room. Where is he?
We got them squeezed in a corner somewhere.
Mhm.
All right,
Mm.
Karen.
All right, so
Three honorable
honorable-
mentions. What do you got?
I've got some interesting ones. I have Possessed from Venom. They were kind of like, well, they're down, they kind of peaked already, but it's still Possessed. That's right. It was still a good record, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. Frankenchrist by the Dead Kennedys. I remember looking at that record, the album, the picture. Yeah, look at that. That cracked me up forever. And the fact that and they speaking of Giger, they had the poster, I forget the penis landscape or something like that. It's pretty graphic. And that was, yes, it was banned. That was why my brother and I bought it. My brother and I would have to put our money together to pick out a record, and my mom was pissed off about it. There's some songs, there's a few, really good songs on there. MTV Get Off the Air. I like that one a lot. It's okay, but it definitely has its high points. The next one I pick is Broken Bones, Bone Crusher.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Again, it's not Dem Bones, but it's a really good record, and it stands on its own, and that's it.
That's
So,
my favorite.
baby,
Bone
it's
Crusher
a
is my
great
favorite
one.
Broken Bones.
That's your favorite one?
I love that album.
That's your
Really
favorite
good.
Broken Bones. It is good.
It's so
but,
fucking
yeah.
heavy.
So those are my three. Those are my honorable mentions.
You guys have mentioned Celtic Frost a lot and Giger there. Did you guys know that Tom G. Warrior worked for him?
Absolutely.
Yep, they
Did
became
you
close
see the
friends.
documentary?
Yeah, I have. That's how I know.
Yeah.
I saw that on Netflix a couple years ago. It was really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
That guy was haunted.
I'm a big fan of his
They ended
work.
up becoming pretty close friends, I think, over the
Yep.
years.
And I think Reed St. Mark told me once that he lived with Giger and his wife for a number of months too.
Yep.
I think they kind of showed that in the doc.
Yeah.
I got to go to an H.R. Giger art gallery showing in New York City. It was Carcass's record release party for the Heartwork album. And when we went there, they were playing Carcass, and Carcass band was there. Actually, Keeler had passes and he couldn't make it. So he gave them to me and this guy, Yench and Brad Mader. And we went, and I got to see all those paintings up close. And it was one of the coolest things I ever seen.
I bet.
Yeah, I knew about that. I know they did it in LA just a couple months ago, or it just finished last month, I think. October to November, I think.
Wow.
His artwork is stunning. Just absolutely. There's no one like him. No one like him.
And he used them on his new band too. Tom's newer band, Triptychon. Those have Giger artwork on them as well. But that one's obviously the first one used, and it's just iconic. Cool. But even before that, though, Emerson, Lake and Palmer did it first.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there you go.
Didn't he do something with Blondie? Debbie Harry?
Yeah.
Didn't he beat her or something like that?
think
Did
so,
her?
yeah.
Did Steve Stevens, Atomic Playboys record?
Yeah, he didn't work with a lot of bands, but there's a few of them.
And then of course Aliens,
Oh my God.
That's what he's famous for, from Alien.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let me go rip through mine. So speaking of pretty famous artists, there's a guy named Johannes who's worked with tons of bands as well. He did the artwork for the second album from Fate's Warning, The Spectre Within.
Nice.
Nice.
Really cool
Great
album. How about Armored Saint, Delirious Nomad?
Ah, you dick.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's their best album. That's what I'm saying.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's
I think it's
incredible.
their
It's
best.
not their
Armored Saint.
best. It's great
That's-
though.
It's my favorite. I like it.
Top
The
three
one-
for sure. Top three for
the one
sure.
I
after that,
forgot
the
about
best.
that one.
Yeah, exactly. Butch said is really good. And I got to go to Megatherion as well. There's so many to choose from, so many great albums. I love the Slayer. I love, there's so many great albums, but I had to pick just three. And this is absolutely classic. Their best
Yes.
album, not even close.
That's a life changer for me right there.
Yeah, it's great stuff. All right, Bryce.
All right. So my first one, I'll go with The Day of Wrath by Bulldozer. Yeah, I know Ryan was going to appreciate that one. It's classic first wave black metal. Yeah, from Italy. This might actually be like my favorite first wave black metal album. It's between that and the first Bathory album, but really great stuff there. I've got a little bit of trivia for y'all here. Can anybody tell me who this is right here?
It's hard to see.
It's
Who's
hard
that
to-
dude that worked at Burger King and then would play like get all dressed up to go to the fair on Friday nights?
I don't know how clear it is, but
That's who he is.
No, it's super clear. I can't tell
It's
from.
like
Is
the
that
guy from
Blackie?
Nuclear Assault? Is it
Nah.
the guy from Nuclear Assault?
It's not
No.
Blackley Lawless, is it?
no,
Look-
no.
Looks like
it's-
Tom Kiefer from a distance, but I don't think it's him.
It is Marty Friedman
Oh,
with
Friedman.
Hawaii.
Oh, from Hawaii. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
The
Let me see
natives
that
are
again.
restless.
Hey, we gotta flip that back over.
It looks pretty glam, but it's pretty much
That's
speed
baby
metal.
Marty right there.
Yeah.
I have Hawaii.
It's a young
from-
Marty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
young
really
Marty,
young there.
great stuff. Pretty underrated album, so definitely check it out. And I got a bunch of albums here, but I'll go with
You can
Love
only
You.
pick 3.
Yeah, Love You to Pieces by Lizzie Borden. Great classic stuff. One of the really great classic singers, hit some really cool high notes and just really great guitar work all over that album as well. So yeah.
As Butch always says, when you're doing something like this, it hurts to leave.
It does hurt.
Yeah, it does.
because you
Got
feel
it.
so strongly about so
I'm
many
a little
albums.
surprised, Bryce. No Slayer from you at all.
Well, yeah, I'll just throw this in here real quick. I got a cassette of Killing Is My Business.
I got it.
I thought that was
pretty
going to
cool.
be in your top 3.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
right
it's
on.
it's up there for sure. It rotates in. Oh, nice. But yeah, Slayer's great too, of course. I mean,
Okay.
All right, Ron.
Yeah, I had mine. Sabotage, Power of the Night. I mean, I love that album. I was almost tied with the Dio because Sabotage is one of those bands I got into them right around this time. That's when I got into them, and so that was one of my favorites. Slayer, Hell Awaits. That's one of my favorite albums from Slayer too. It's probably my second or third. Except Metal Heart, nobody mentioned Except.
Yeah, it really
So I was big into Except back in the 80s. And then I know this is not metal, but I have to throw in Rush, Power Window, because
Yeah.
No, it's your top 3 or
Yeah.
whatever. You say it.
Is
dude.
this Mitchell? He can say whatever he wants, and I can
Why
say,
not?
"Ugh."
You could say that.
that's okay.
All right. Butch. No
So I
thunder.
have to amend something. First of all, talk about feeling bad. Let's go back, Jack. Holy shit, I can't believe I fucking fucked this up. God damn it. So we have to take.
Must be the wine, Butch.
Huh?
That's what I say.
That he's
No,
paying so much
I-
attention to hockey. He's like totally.
No,
nuts.
I have no. It's all on me. I have no one to blame but myself that I totally missed it and I didn't think of it. I'm pissed off at myself. So as much as I give you that story about anthrax and spreading disease and meaning a lot, it still means a lot. That's got to come out of the 3 because Loudness, Thunder in the East has to fucking go in there. I
Oh my
can't believe that I fucking forgot
I was
Akira.
shocked.
Akira, I am so fucking sorry. Oh God, Akira-san. So that's got to go in there. So I brought a bunch of different ones. And I knew people were going to say them, so you made my 3 honorable mentions really easy. So thank you. So we'll start with it. And Gary Moore's Run for Cover.
Yeah, it's a good.
Yeah.
Glenn Hughes makes an appearance on this, and more importantly, this is not really, but kind of Phil Lynot's last appearance on a full record, really, because that was 85 and he died in January of 86. And one of my favorite Gary Moore solos is the song Military Man, with Phil singing. That's just phenomenal. Another LA band, the debut album from Rough Cut.
Rough cut.
Wow, I haven't heard
Love
that
this
yet.
record to death. Saw them open for Dio, Rob in 85 on Sacred Heart.
Yep.
And a band that I know doesn't get a whole lot of love besides me, and another band I'll defend until the day I die. Now, do they make some sappy ballads? Yes, they do. But when they're not making sappy ballads, they're making some crushing guitar riffs. And Michael Sweet is still one of the great guitar players and riff artists. Karen, you can put your hand up to your face all you want. Striper's Soldiers Under Command is a brilliant record. I don't care. And I have the original in white vinyl
There you
Wow.
go.
Okay.
from
It's got some
Enigma
nice
Records.
riffs for sure. Huh. What about the first Anthem album? Was that up there?
No,
Nah.
well, it would have been, but I didn't have it on vinyl, so I didn't even bring that out there. but,
Gotcha.
Pete, thank you very much for saying that. Though I'm, whenever we do these things, what I always do is I'll go up on the internet and bring up the top albums released in 1985, and I'll
Yeah.
scroll through to jog my memory, and then I don't need it anymore, and then I just do my own thing. And as I'm looking through that list, I didn't see Loudness
Yeah.
at all. So I didn't even think about it until you said East. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was waiting for it. I'm like,
Sometimes you just forget. You're like,
and we've all done it. I've done it.
mhm.
God knows that
Oh, yeah.
album's gotten played a lot.
Yeah.
So
There was
so
that
anyone
one
knows
year,
my-
I don't remember what the year was, but I forgot Corridors of Power by Gary Moore just because I didn't see it on that
82.
list. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a great album too.
And it's amazing. Like I just said, you go on the internet and it gives you, 80 albums, and then it leaves out some of the best albums of those years. You're like, how do they not remember that
Right.
this album was in it? They even
Yeah, you
put it
can't
in the
trust
list.
those lists
You can't.
made by
So-
chuckleheads all
Yep.
the way.
You ought to know.
Butch, did you see Loudness on that tour?
That's a sore subject. No, I did not.
I went
I-
to that with
I
Loudness.
was
Mountain, and
supposed to see
Triumph.
them open for opening for Triumph. I think it was that
And
tour.
Mountain.
I think it was that
Yeah.
tour.
Yeah, it was.
And
Butch.
It was the Triple Summit tour, they were calling it, and they played at the Meadowlands with Loudness. And I, at that time in the early '80s, I was going to Connecticut because it was closer, and I knew how to drive to New Haven. So I saw them in the New Haven Coliseum, and Loudness left the tour at the Meadowlands. They played that
Oh.
Meadowlands show, and then they were off. They didn't play with them. I didn't see Loudness until 2011.
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I've loved them since '83. It took that long for me to see Akira.
I
So,
had
yeah.
seen that show at the Meadowlands, and it was funny because he was like, "We love you, fucking New Yorkie," and everybody,
Oh, yeah.
New Jersey, and then he's like, "We love you, smoke a potty."
They were, man. If anyone, I'm sorry that we're still talking about Loudness, but if you guys haven't seen the video on YouTube with Loudness in '85 opening for Motley Crue on a Theater of Pain, there's a whole like hour and a half long documentary on it, if you can find it still. I saw it a couple of years ago. They show the whole set of them opening for Crue in Pennsylvania, and then they travel with them and show them doing like the whole tour, like showing clips and stuff from East all the way out to California. It's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, I was at that Meadowlands show too,
Yeah,
and I
me
went,
too.
I
Fuck you
went,
too.
I went because Loudness was there because I really didn't have much interest in the other bands at the
Oh,
time.
man.
It was a weird bill.
They'll
kinda,
Triumph
man.
were good. They'll Triumph were pretty good then. So.
And I think
Yeah,
wasn't
they're-
Mountain with it? Wasn't it like Triumph, Mountain, and Loudness?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mountain with the middle band.
Yeah.
Mountain?
Wow.
Mountains there.
That is a strange.
Mississippi
Oh, that is
Queen.
a weird bill.
Yeah.
I saw
Yes.
Loudness at Club Manhattan's also back
Mm,
in the day.
that would have been awesome to see.
All right, Ryan.
First off, since it came up, I got to. My friend sent me this today. Is a picture of, I believe. Let's see if I get that there. Was it Michael Sweet?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Yeah,
That's
Mexico.
cool. Kim Bendix Peterson right there. There he
Yep.
is. Look at those guys. So he's making the devil horns, but of course he's not. So.
And I'll tell you, those two guys,
Pointing up.
those are two of the nicest guys in metal. Period.
Oh, I
Oh, I believe.
yeah, I'm
that.
not. I'm poking fun, but I'm not because yeah.
no. I
yeah.
totally get it. But just saying that
That-
it's heaven and hell, literally. But
Yeah.
they're both those guys are really
And
really nice guys.
Striper's warming up Merciful Fate twice down in Mexico right now.
Yeah, they're playing that festival.
Yeah.
I think a
that's
Striper Merciful
odd.
Fate tour, like all across the US, would be pretty.
That would be interesting.
That would
Very
be
interesting. Yeah, I've never heard any negative things for either King Diamond or him. I've heard they're like Dio, just sweethearts to the end.
That Mexico Fest was over the top.
It was really good, yeah. But
Here we get Pantera, Metallica down there. They get Pantera with like every cool band on
the lineup was berserk. But
earth.
what are you gonna do? So, like you guys said, there's a million good albums. So I picked for honorables. I just tried to pick three that I thought were I don't talk about a lot. They don't get a lot of mention. So going from Italy, the first one was Black Hole that Karen mentioned.
Land of Mystery.
Yeah, so these guys they did some other stuff, but it was never really as good as this first album. And it's really it's very Black Sabbath-y, but it's also like Goblin, like Fabio Frizzi, kind of like a lot of soundtrack to like Argento, Lucio Fulci, like a lot of those classic Italian movies. It has that feel, the big gothic keyboards, kind of over the top sound that like the Italian soundtracks had. Like you ever see those old Italian movies? The soundtracks are awesome, but they're really fucking over the top. It's like almost prog rock. Dudes just noodling away on the bass guitar. So it's kind of like that, but mixed with Black Sabbath and a very strong Italian accent vocalist. So Black Hole and the Mystery. Then I'm gonna go over to England, and I don't know. This is a cool band. I feel like maybe they didn't get a big due because they were metal, but they didn't really fit in the metal world, and they were punk, but they didn't really fit in the punk world. I guess they were kind of split the difference. But it's their second album, and the band was English Dogs, Forward into Battle.
Yeah.
It's like you took an old hardcore band and like combined them with Manowar. That makes sense. Like the songs are all about swords and sorcery and fighting battles and stuff. But the vocals are like, and the music is just total heavy metal, but the vocals are just total old hardcore punk, very English punk. So it's
forget that.
Oh, it's such a good album. It's fucking awesome. The riffs are great. The guitars are great. The vocals, everything's great. It's just it like doesn't belong in either world. So it's kind of almost like I forgot. Well, I hear it mentioned occasionally, but yeah, just a really cool album. But yeah, it's like old kind of like old English hardcore playing Manowar songs, but done super good. And the most obscure band I think mentioned tonight, but I had to pull it out because it's cool. Another English band. Again, they didn't really fit in any world. It's a little punk, but it's a little like death metal, but 85, so very early death metal, so very noisy and just kind of their own thing. This English band, Sacrilege, Behind the Realms of Madness. It's hard to describe these guys because they kind of sounded like a little bit like what Napalm Death would, but that was years later. I don't know. There's like really nothing in 85 that sounded like these guys. Like there's the sub punk genre crust punk, which is, Amoebics was another one. There's not a lot of bands that kind of got big from that world. So I'm trying to who to compare them to, but yeah, obviously like you look at the band photos too, very, very punk rock, but like fucking heavy as shit, like disgusting, like Celtic Frost heavy. And the guitar tone was just out of this world heavy. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird band, never really fit. After this, they ended up becoming more of a traditional metal band. Weren't as interesting, but this first album is just, actually, you know what? The closest band I would compare them to, even though they predated them, was Bolt Thrower. And in fact, early, the death metal band from England, Bolt Thrower, when Bolt Thrower started, I think they copied a lot from these guys. So that's a pretty good comparison. But yeah, just an awesome album, cool band. Not mentioned a lot, so I figured I'd pull it out, and there you go. Oh shit! And Nick gave me his fucking picks too. I forgot all. I gotta go back into my text messages here. Yeah, he's like, please, I'd feel terrible if I didn't mention any of Nick's picks here because he sent to me. So Nick's top three: Bathory, The Return, which I love, the second Bathory album, awesome. Halloween, Walls of Jericho, and his number one was Hell Awaits. And his honorable mentions. Actually, Ben, I can't believe I forgot. I pulled the butch. I fucking forgot all about him until this very second. Razor, who released two albums that year.
Right.
Two albums: Executioner's Song, which is great, and Evil Invaders, which is my favorite Razor album, 1985. So fuck, I'm a dumbass too. Celtic Frost and Onslaught, Power from Hell, the English thrash band. He mentioned a bunch of other ones, but he didn't know about the three honorable mentions. So we'll cap it at that.
Look at this, Ralph. You were amazing.
Show and tell. I love.
Can't believe I forgot Razor.
Ralph's got every prop known to man tonight.
I forgot English Dogs. That's
There you
embarrassing.
They're one of those bands that ain't gonna come up on those lists. You almost had to put in the band's discography and look through what did they put out that year. Okay, they put out this.
You'd have to know them. Yeah, like if you go, this you have to like a lot of this stuff. Even Black Hole, you have to like know about it to like get it pop up. Secret stuff.
Right. Ralph.
All right, I'm gonna try to be quick. Just gonna start flashing stuff from 85.
Maiden.
Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
AC/DC.
AC/DC. We just got to call them out.
Yeah, we'll call him out for you. Carnivore.
Yeah, Carnivore.
Okay.
Nobody picked Carnivore.
No, we all fucked up. That Carnivore album rules.
Holy shit!
Well, what do we got there? That's hard.
Mentors. Oh my God.
The Mentors.
Oh my God.
4F Club.
We're failures, Ryan.
Oh, who's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, Corrosion
Oh, wow.
Complete.
Yeah.
Oh
You
man.
missed a lot of good ones here.
DRI.
Dealing with it. That's a great album.
Misfits Legacy.
That's
Needed
a cool one.
Aloe for that one.
Alan would have picked that for sure.
Yeah. Oh, Loose Nut. I was just talking about the Loose Nut
you were,
yesterday.
yeah.
They put out 2 albums that year.
Yeah, in my head. Yep. Wow.
Oh my God.
Those are both.
I'm glad that Ralph's an outlaw because I get yelled at if I
Oh,
do.
wait, what do we got there?
Meat Men.
Meat Men.
Oh,
Dead.
yeah.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
cool.
Oh wow.
Sam Hain, Unholy
I don't
Passion.
think I know that one.
Wow, that's rare.
really.
Fucking wild.
This is the most obscure album. of
Now he's showing,
85.
he's
I don't
Who's
think-
that?
What is that?
Mighty
Mighty
Sphincter.
Sphincter. Yeah, I know that shit.
I haven't
Yeah.
heard that name in forever.
What a name.
We didn't even have to go to
Forever.
Weird
Yeah.
band
Wikipedia.
too. Very cool band. Yeah, weird name.
Didn't have to go to Wikipedia. Just call for Alpha. He'll show you every
Exploited.
album release.
Exploited
date.
horror epics. That's a good one. Trying to like look at a little square here.
Jeez.
Subhumans.
Subhumans?
How can I forget the Subhumans? Oh my
Yeah, because you only can mention 3. That's it.
I know. I'm struggling.
Exciter.
Cider.
All with the
Best-
loud.
Best Exciter album right there.
Would you say, Butch? It's the only one you've heard?
Metal,
Metal
Church.
Church,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, we all
Two
forgot
albums
that.
that I've heard.
Oh,
Was that not 84? Was Metal Church not
I was gonna say,
84?
I think that was 84.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, grandfather.
Possessed. Yeah.
Best.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Destruction.
Tell me that's not
He's
even.
using all
Oh,
my.
we all forgot Destruction too.
Yeah.
I didn't
And we all
forget 'em.
forgot
I didn't get to go
Creator.
yet.
There was so many. I told you there was so many albums, man.
He's
Look at
showing
this.
every album that I picked now.
Showing every album that was released in
Horseshoe.
1985.
Wow.
I agreed, Butch.
Oh my
Blessed
God.
Death.
Blessed Death. Kill or be
Wow.
killed.
Where's White Lion?
And what happened to the only 3 honorable mentions?
He's
Well, I
not
would have
staying.
I would have got my head shot
Yes,
off with the
it-
good one. if I
Acid.
did
I
this.
know. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Pile driver.
Pile
Pile
Driver.
driver.
Metal Inquisition.
I still have one he hasn't shown.
Trouble of the Skull.
Trouble.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve,
trouble.
don't worry. Cassettes are next.
Fear.
Beer. Have a beer. I was gonna say that one, but I didn't think it worthy. But
Right.
it's definitely fun record.
VOC.
Okay.
Easy.
And
All right, Ralph,
ZZ Top.
let's save some for Steve here.
I
Steve
saw that tour too. ZZ Top.
Last one. Omen.
Omen. Warning of danger.
There
I
you
told
go.
you
I'm gonna put that
cassettes
on
were
my list.
coming.
Dave,
Oh,
Dave
right.
Abortion,
Dang,
What's
all
that?
horses. Holy shit.
Running
What do you
Wild.
want?
Running Wild. Oh wow.
All righty.
All right,
That's
Steve. what do you
dedication.
got?
Oh my
pull all those
God.
off
I
the
love
fucking
that
shelf.
Daigle Abortions
All right.
record.
So
I gotta give
He
you a
showed
hand,
it.
Ralph.
so
That's a
so
lot.
my 3 honorables are, I could break the rules now because he just showed 40. I never want to hear it again. So Destruction, Infernal Overkill. Destruction gets very little love on this channel, even when we talk about thrash metal. Not surprised, but Bestial Invasion, Thrash Attack, Creator, Endless Pain, Flag of Hate was on that album, and Tormentor and some other great songs. And one that no one's mentioned so far, Warlock, Hellbound,
Oh,
Out
that's
of
a good one.
Control, the title track, Shout It Out. That's some great early Warlock stuff. And I'm mentioning my 2 live albums I'm out here, Live After Death, which I listened to a million times,
Still don't
and
like that album.
Scorpions Worldwide Live.
Yeah. Nice one.
Very cool.
And Geiger, we're talking about Geiger's influence in metal. We forgot about Jonathan Davis at Korn. He has a Geiger mic stand that actually Geiger helped design for him.
No one forgot it. It wasn't in 1985.
Bingo.
But it
Right
wasn't, but neither was Brain Salad Surgery.
No,
But
that's
it was
true.
about Geiger, but it was backwards. Because
Yeah,
we
I
were
know.
talking about Geiger. And
I went into the
Yeah.
past.
They just started
Touche,
talking about all
Steven,
different
touche.
Geiger stuff. Geiger was on a Blondie record, they said, so.
Yep.
Yep. Right.
But I
Yeah.
guess that's it. Pete, do you want to mention what we've got cooking?
Yes, so before we go, Steve and myself have a little event announcement for the new year in 2023. Steve, I'll kick it over to you to
So
Yeah.
it's gonna be Saturday, January 7th at Quinn's at our little venue we put together here in Middletown. I've met a few viewers there that actually have come out to shows from watching Pardo's show and
Wait, hold on, Steve. Remember, Steve, we're not in the basement in Middletown. There's a lot of people around that watch this that have no idea where you're talking about. So explain to them where you're talking about.
Yes.
it's-
Give them the
it's-
address.
it's Middletown, New York,
There
Quinn's
you go.
Pins, where my store is, yes. I thought we had that already out there a little bit, but yeah.
You're right, Steve, because there's never any new guys that pop up to watch.
Yeah,
It's always,
it's-
it's only the same people that have been watching every week. It's only the same people.
It could be, same 20,000, right? Or 10,000, whatever that. But anyhow,
Sell it,
it's in
Steve, sell
Middletown,
it.
New York. It's in Middletown, New York. I'm not sure what Pete's doing on his side, but we have British Steel, the Judas Priest tribute booked for that show. And Pete is gonna do a little Q&A, I think, before with us or
Yeah,
end
we'll
of year or something or another. I don't know what he's come up with. So that's gonna be up to Pete.
Yep. So basically, I think 8 o'clock, the band will go on and play, and they're going to put on a really good 2 sets for us. It looks like, and
Yeah.
so that'll be at 8 o'clock. Probably at 7 o'clock, we'll do, Steve and I'll probably do like a little Q&A. Whoever else wants to come from the show here, join us up on stage. We'll do a Q&A with the audience. There'll be drinks and food and all that kind of stuff. There's bowling going on. So we're going to try and make like a whole evening out of it. So it'll be lots of fun. So again, Steve, do you have the address for Quinn's Pins? I'm looking it up.
I do not have the exact
I know
address for
it
Quinn's
is.
Pins, but
13
13
Railroad
Railroad
Avenue. in
but it's pretty easy to
Middletown, New
Google,
York.
of course. And we also thought about if anybody wanted to come out, we could rent a couple lanes and do a little bowling party. See who's the best bowler on the squares here.
I'll
You know
take
what?
bets.
You
I
taking
was,
that bet?
Not me.
I'll take
I'll
that
tell you
bet.
Oh, you can always have
Oh.
drunken bowling too, because
Nothing
that's like
will be-
$15 a head if anybody wanted to come out and a couple hours before we could do that. It would be a whole afternoon of Sea of Tranquility, Hudson Valley Squares. We do have two shows I just want to talk that are coming up. We have Iron Cobra on December 16th. We have 105, a classic rock / metal type band for our Christmas thing on the December 23rd. And I'm going to be playing songs that night in between the sets. And other than that, January 7th, we got British Steel with the Pete Pardo Day. It's going to be Pete Pardo Day.
It's not just me, it's you as well, Steve.
I was at a show this weekend and somebody actually came up to me, which I found was really odd. And he was saying that everyone seems really cool. They all, I'd love to hang out with you guys. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's weird. But like, I told him I knew you guys were doing something at Quinn's and he's from the city. So
Cool.
I mentioned,
Everybody,
keep an
did
eye
you see
out.
Karen walk right up to her and give her a hug and say, "Hey, you seem so cool. Don't try to freak her out now." That she thinks this is so weird.
And get
Why is
used
this weird
to
person
people
talking to me?
running into you.
Karen, I was in Norway and this guy, shout out to Fabio from fucking Rio de Janeiro. I think it was Rio de
What a
Janeiro.
name.
If I got that wrong, I
Fabio.
apologize. Came up to me and said, I watch the show all the time.
When we
So
were
Fabio from Rio de Janeiro, and I was in Norway talking about Sea
Wow.
Tranquility. So
He has no idea where Quinn's Pins is.
No,
Yeah.
we don't. But he's probably not going to fly in for it.
Hey,
probably not. He said he was
Maybe.
moving. He said he
You
was
never know.
moving away, but
Here
he
in
said he-
Middletown, where Rock
wasn't moving to
Fantasy
Middletown.
is. You come to Rock Fantasy and visit too while you're there. But
That's
yeah.
right. Well, if you
It'll
live in
be
the Hudson
fun.
Valley or in the city or upstate a little bit,
Yeah.
or Jersey or Connecticut, come out on January 7th,
And-
starting at around 7 o'clock or maybe a little earlier at Quinn's Pins, 13 Railroad Avenue in Middletown, New York, for British
That's
Steel
free.
doing their Judas Priest show. That's right. It is free, right? It's
Yeah.
free. There's a full bar and restaurant there as well. So food and drinks will be available, and
And
it's a free show.
pinball.
And hey, before we sign off, I was just text something. This has nothing to do with music whatsoever, but I was just text that Kirstie Alley died. The actress
Wow.
Kirstie Alley from Cheers.
Wow.
Oh, I smiled at that. I'm sorry. That's
So,
Why
she
did you
died
smile at that? It's very
71.
because I thought of something.
She was 71. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
So just-
I had a good
that
friend
out
of
there.
mine that used to hang around with her, actually. That's wow.
Mm.
Wow.
Wow. That's true.
So not bringing everything down, but just saying that just because I saw it.
Rest in peace, Christy. Oh man, I was just watching some old Cheers episodes recently.
Yep.
too. Crazy. We're losing them all, man. We're losing them all.
We're getting old.
Yeah, well. All right. So thanks for
So
watching.
are we.
Everybody. Yeah, I know.
On a
Everybody is.
happy note.
Except for
Bryce.
Bryce. He's still,
Bryce is
Bryce is
young.
still young.
Bryce is still young. That's right. That's right.
He's got plenty of time to figure out who the goat is.
That's right.
Blackie Lawless is definitely in contention.
No, he's not.
No,
Yeah,
he's
one of the
not.
coolest voices. Hey, I got to mention "I Am the Night" by Pantera as well, and the first Watchtower album.
Watchtower. Awesome.
Shout out to Jason McMaster, a new buddy.
Yeah,
The
Great
goats,
guy.
the goats stand 7-3. Brady's losing right now.
Uh-oh.
that's a weird way to say Dan Marino.
Oh yeah. A lot of Super Bowl wins for Dan.
Hey, it's a team sport.
Pete, get us out of this.
Yeah. So for everybody
Yeah,
watching,
really.
in the comments below, list your top 3 albums of 1985 and any honorables you want. And visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. All together, all the
All the damn time.
Damn time.
We are
January
never even
7th
close.
is Sea of Tranquility Rock Fantasy Night at Quinn's Pins in Middletown, New York. British Steel, all Judas Priest, all night. Till then, for Steve Keeler, Count Ralphus, Ryan Scow, Butch Jones, Rob Lasante, Bryce, and Karen LaFreziosa, I am Pete Pardo. See you in 2 weeks. We won't have a Hudson Valley Squares next week because I will be traveling for a business trip, but we'll see you in 2 weeks with more craziness here on the squares. Till then, have a good week, everybody. Bye-bye.